The BCCS project unit is a unit that teaches about the Holocaust and the lessons that we can learn from it that will help to reduce bullying in our school and in our community. It covers informative writing mostly. A lot of speaking and listening skills are also covered in this unit. Our reading skills are supplementary to the informative writing and speaking and listening. The reading that we do helps to inform them about what they need, what direction they need to go in with their essays and their public service announcements. Mallory, would you please read for us our big idea essential question that is on the board?
Why is it important to learn from history and pass that learning from generation to generation?
We are going to be taking our knowledge of the Holocaust and transferring our knowledge to others in the form of informative writing and the BCCS project, big project. You're going to be making public service announcements that will inform and educate the younger students in our school on how we should treat others. But I first want to get your thoughts on what you know about the Holocaust. All right, I would like for you to turn to an elbow partner next to you. I want you to share what you know about the Holocaust right now. Do I have any volunteers who would like to share? Garrett.
I know that Hitler and the Nazis killed over 11 million people.
Okay. Where did you learn that information?
I learned it from books and documentaries and videos.
So you have prior knowledge. Very good. Thank you for that contribution. Who else would like to share something you know about the Holocaust? Jody?
I know that Hitler put the Jewish people and others into concentration camps where they were gassed and burned and starved.
That is exactly right. Where did you learn that knowledge?
From books and other videos that I've watched.
Thank you. Now let's move to the middle column of our KWL chart, what I want to know. I make sure that the students set ground rules for all of their group work and discussions because it is important in this unit especially that they treat each other with respect. This unit requires that. I would be remiss if I did not make that a focus of this unit. So we sit down, we talk about what it means to be a productive group member, to treat everyone with respect, to build on each other's ideas in a respectful way. It just makes, it starts the learning about the Holocaust and its lessons and how to treat other people the way we want to be treated. It starts that learning right away. Raise your hand if you have been asked by a teacher previously in school to work in a group. Okay, I believe that is every single hand that goes up. I can raise my hand too. I've been asked to work in a group. Even teachers have to work in groups. Working in groups is very important because guess what? When you go to the job market and get a job when you're out of school, you'll be asked to work in groups. So developing good group skills is a very important thing you have to do. Now I want us to look at our essential question on the board. Braswell, would you mind reading that today's essential question?
How can I contribute my best to a group effort?
We're going to be working on developing some rules for our group work in this unit. You're going to be working in groups a lot in this unit, quite a bit. PSA will be a group effort. Our public service announcement will be completely you working with others to create the best possible product that will teach others about the Holocaust and how we should treat others with kindness and respect. Now you have on your paper a T-chart. The left-hand side of the T-chart says characteristics of productive group membership. The right-hand side of the T-chart says characteristics of unproductive group membership. I would like you in your small groups to work with each other to list the characteristics of working well in a group and then not working well in a group. I would like to hear from you about what are the characteristics of productive group membership and unproductive group membership. Gregory, do you have a characteristic for productive group members? They always stay on task. Excellent answer. Dreandra?
Sharing ideas.
Sharing ideas. I really like that answer because one of the 8th grade standards says building upon each other's ideas, and we can only do that if we share ideas. Very nice. Diamond.
Not putting other people's ideas down.
You do not put people's ideas down. These are excellent answers. Let's move over to, these were mostly productive group members, characteristics. Let's move to unproductive group membership. All right, now below your characteristics chart, you will see a few instructions and some blanks. These blanks serve a purpose. You are going to use the characteristics in the chart above to write 5 rules with your group that will govern. Now let's talk about that word govern. The students form their own group rules, and then we discuss as a class, and then we get a class list together. We correct grammar on the rules. I make sure that they're imperative sentences because 2-word imperative sentences are much easier to remember than multi-worded longer rules. Right, you and groups have worked on rules that will govern your group work and discussions, and we've discussed them as a class and they're on the board. I want to ask you a question. Why is it so important for us to abide by these rules in this unit, especially dealing with the Holocaust and trying to reduce bullying? Why are these rules so important in this unit? Spencer.
To honor and respect those who died in the incident of the Holocaust.
I love that answer. I love that answer. Every year as we go through this unit, I have students who come to me and say, Ms. Bragg, how can we honor the Holocaust victims? What can we do to honor their memories? And I say, well, there are several things we can do, but there's one thing we can do right now, starting today, and that's to show respect to others, to treat them the way that we would like to be treated. And this will all build with your groups. If you follow these 5 rules in your groups, you are showing honor and respect to those victims that we are going to be studying.
Ms. Bragg is the real deal. I think today kids are looking for something that's real, and when they walk into this classroom, I know what they see is what they get. And she sets a standard in this room for excellence as a student, but she also sets a standard for life in here. And I think when they come in, they know that this is a classroom where I've got to just be on top of my game and do it.
Our next activity is going to be deciding if a book is an allegory or not. We're going to use the elements of these notes, this information, for you to analyze and judge whether a work is an allegory. So I want us to go through these notes. I'm going to call on you to read individual points of these notes. Then after we finish reading, I want you to summarize these notes. What does it mean to summarize? Wyatt?
Pick certain parts out.
Now what parts would you pick out?
Facts and the most important.
I like that answer. The facts and the most important details are what you would pull out of these notes to transfer to your notebook paper. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our first question. 2 questions on this paper. First one, what is an allegory? Haley, would you read the very first note?
An allegory is a story, poem, or picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning.
Thank you, Haley. Second bullet point, Bree.
The hidden meaning of an allegory is usually a moral, political, or religious one.
Thank you, Bree. Third bullet point, Tanaya.
The character, setting, and events in an allegory are some symbols which stand for people, things, and ideas beyond themselves.
Now let's talk about that word symbols. We've talked about symbols before in this classroom. Raise your hand if you remember what symbols are in literature. Braswell.
Symbols are what indicates the meaning.
Well, they can be used to help indicate meaning, but symbols are things that not only stand for themselves, but also something else. That's exactly right. Let's go on to our 4th bullet point. Nick.
An allegory has 2 meanings, the literal and the symbolic. The symbolic meaning is more important, however.
Now, an allegory, if a book or a work is an allegory, it has its own meaning over here. The events in the story, that is a literal meaning, but everything in that story that happens, every character in that story, also stands for something else. Let's go to bullet point number 5. I chose the book The Terrible Things, which is an allegory of the Holocaust, because it goes so deeply into symbolism and the lessons learned from the events of the Holocaust. It is a children's book, and it is below the level of 8th grade reading, but that's not the focus of the lesson, the reading. The focus of the lesson is that symbolic meaning behind the literal meaning. What was the author focused on? What was her reasoning behind writing this story in the form of an allegory? I'm going to read for you the beginning of a story that you will finish reading in your groups. It is called Terrible Things. I am going to show you the pictures. I'm going to read the first half, and then you'll take over. Here's your job. Here's your focus. I want you listening to the story, but I want you thinking also about the notes about allegory that we have discussed. And I want you to judge with your groups when you're finished reading, is Terrible Things an allegory? And if it is, what is it an allegory of? That's your focus for this part of this lesson. Terrible Things by Eve Bunting. The clearing in the woods was home to the small forest creatures. The birds and squirrels shared the trees. The rabbits and porcupines shared the shade beneath the trees. And the frogs and fish shared the cool brown waters of the forest pond. They were content until the day the terrible things came. I would like for you now to finish the reading of this story in your small groups. You're going to read around each group. Each person will read a portion of the text, and you'll just loop back around. After you have completed your reading, I want you to look at your allegory notes, and I want you to judge, does this book, Terrible Things, qualify as an allegory? Why does it qualify as an allegory? You have to give me text evidence to prove that. And then if it is an allegory, what is it an allegory of? What event? What situation? What is it an allegory of? That is your job. You may begin.
But the terrible things don't need a reason.
What does this group think so far? It's an allegory. What notes from our allegory notes help steer you in the direction that the first one? What does the first one say?
An allegory is a story, poem, or a picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning.
And Tanaya just talked about the hidden meaning. That's exactly right. Give me another part of your notes. And the pictures, that's right. The pictures of our story. The third one. What does the third one say?
Character, setting, and events in allegory are symbols which name people, things, and ideas about themselves.
Okay, and Tanaya touched on this. The character, setting, and events in an allegory are symbols. So the animals in the story are symbols. That's exactly right.
That turned against him.
Each group that was carried away. That's exactly right. Terrible things.
And the last one, because they gave the animals personification.
What does the terrible things symbolize? Okay.
When they came and took
Okay, and you said the last note? What does the last note say?
many times allegories will contain personification to convey its deeper meaning.
Okay, and what is this? The animals speak. That's exactly right. That is personification. Excellent work. Thank you.
Animals.
It's an easier way to put it.
Yeah. Instead of saying that the Jewish people were killed, because little kids won't understand that. And it being a children's book, it's easier for the children to understand. So.
Yeah, it has personification using the animals and their personalities. The moral could be maybe to stick together
And never leave your friends behind.
Have an idea.
all set together.
They might could have defended themselves
Nice.
against the terrible things.
Question I asked.
Same way
Very
with
good.
the
Have you touched on
they were
why
stuck
did
together,
Eve Bunting
and they
write
could
this as an allegory? Have
probably
you talked
defend
about
themselves against the Nazi party. Same like the terrible things were the Nazis.
I would like for the small groups to report back to the whole class on what you decided about terrible things. Is it an allegory? Let's take care of that question first. Which group would like to offer an answer? Jody.
Terrible Things is an allegory because the different animal groups can represent the different ethnic groups being taken away by the terrible things.
And that is exactly right. That group is correct. Who else in this room decided that this story was an allegory? Very good. It is an allegory. Let's talk more about that symbolism. The individual animal groups represent the different groups that Hitler and the Nazis took away to the camps. The terrible things symbolize what in the Holocaust? Spencer?
Nazis.
The Nazis and the work they did. They went and took groups away one at a time. Yes?
I was going to add on to that.
Okay, please add on.
It said how there was different groups they took out one at a time, just like in the Holocaust.
That's exactly right. And why do you believe that the terrible things, the Nazis, took away one group at a time instead of going and taking away every animal at once? Gregory?
To make them suffer.
To make them suffer. Okay, who else has a thought? Bonnie?
Nobody really pays attention when there's just little people missing here and here, but if you do it all at once, people start to realize what's going on.
That's a deep answer. Now, let's transfer our knowledge to why do authors write allegories? Our central question, our second question on our notes. Who has a thought why Eve Bunting presented the story of the Holocaust in the form of an allegory? Mallory.
For younger children that are younger than us can understand the meaning of the Holocaust.
The story of the Holocaust is presented in a simpler form, using elements that would appeal to children. But why did she write this book? Did she just want to teach about the Holocaust in the form of animals in the forest and the terrible things? Why did she do this, Tanaya?
Because she wanted for the children to learn about the Holocaust, but she didn't want them to learn about the brutal things that happened. So she took that event and she changed it into a story for children to understand.
Wonderful answer, Tanaya. Thank you. Let me read to you a little passage at the very beginning of this book. I love it when an author speaks directly to you and to me, the readers. Let me read to you this passage. These are Eve Bunting's own words. In Europe during World War II, many people looked the other way while terrible things happened. They pretended not to know that their neighbors were being taken away and locked in concentration camps. They pretended not to hear their cries for help. The Nazis killed millions of Jews and others in the Holocaust. If everyone had stood together at the first sign of evil, would this have happened? Eve Bunting issues to us a challenge here. If we turn the other way, terrible things can happen. We have to stand up together. Let's go to our essential question. Let's look at our notes here. Pull out a note from our allegory notes from why do authors write allegories that helps to prove what her message is, Dreandra. For an intended audience to understand. Exactly right. Who is the intended audience? Garrett. Children. She had an intended audience, a certain audience in mind. So she used an allegory to reach that certain audience in a very special way, that the message was still able to be taught to them. Before we plan our PSAs and film them, we write an informative essay. We take the text we studied together in the Holocaust unit and we talk about what actions did we learn from these texts that can help us here and now reduce bullying in our school and in our community. Every text has a common theme that points to what could have been done to help the victims of the Holocaust. So they write an informative essay, they write an informative introductory paragraph, they write 3 actions that they pulled from the text that we have discussed. They use text evidence from those texts to help support their actions. And then they talk about in their body paragraphs how that action from the text can be transferred to the small world of our school. What can we do here based on what that text said should have been done? And then we write a concluding paragraph. You have done some excellent work this unit learning about the Holocaust, and you've also transferred your knowledge about the Holocaust and the lessons learned from those events into your own informative essays that were action plans. How to teach others. What should we do to reduce bullying in our school and elsewhere? You're going to take your action plans, those informative essays, and I want you to share with your groups the 3 actions you recommend others should take that we learned from our Holocaust text. All of our texts this unit had similar themes, and these were the actions you pulled from those texts for your essays. I want your groups to discuss your actions, and then I want you to narrow down the actions that you've written about. Reach a group consensus. What does consensus mean? An agreement. An agreement. I want you to reach a group consensus on one action for your PSA. You may begin. Share those actions with your group members in your essays. They move into choosing from their informative essays, which contain 3 actions that students can use to reduce bullying. They choose an action with their group, one action, because PSAs contain one message. And they build their PSAs around that one action. Has this group decided on an action for your PSA?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking that we can do like speaking out, because I wrote in my essay, I was like, first they came for the Jews, and he kept repeating that, you know, they came for the Jews, but I didn't speak out. And I said that just because somebody is a different race or religion doesn't mean that you shouldn't speak out for them, because one day they might have to speak out for you.
That's right. That's exactly right. And you used that great poem by Martin Moeller. That's very good.
A Poison Tree.
Yeah, and a Poison Tree as well. You're right, though. Standing up and speaking out are very similar, but I think there's enough of a difference that you could take one or the other and run with it in your PSA.
What would you prefer?
Well, what would I prefer? It's what the group prefers. I want your group to reach a consensus. When we start moving toward our PSAs, I always show several sample PSAs on topics unrelated to our unit, so we can get a sense of what a PSA is. And then we move into looking at the PSAs through the eyes of a writer. What are some of the persuasive techniques that PSA producers and makers employ to get this message across? That can range from facial expressions to colors used to music or lack of music, many different persuasive elements. Then we move into looking at one PSA that is semi-related to our topic of this unit, and we look at a sample concept plan where everything that is viewed is juxtaposed against everything that is heard, so they can really see the planning of that PSA. Tell me about your idea. What have you come up with?
Well, there's a kid at football practice doing sprints. We hear like panting and footsteps.
Oh, I like you're working on the audio. Good.
And then he trips and falls and comes in last place. And then we hear like him falling, and then the other
Like, you know,
people on
like
the
in a
team.
movie when he falls and like slow mo goes.
Slow motion. Oh, you're like, yeah.
We hear
That's what we did.
And then we hear like the other players laughing at him. And then the star player comes out and defends him and says like, stop. And then there's like sudden silence because everybody's going to listen to the star player, of course. And then he says some words and like defends him and all that stuff.
We hadn't figured out the words.
And then the star player kneels down and helps pick the boy up, and like on the screen we're going to have like, it doesn't matter who you are, just help.
Oh, I love that.
Before we hear, we're gonna be like right there on that part, like maybe it's like it sounds like his ears are ringing, like.
You've got some very strong visuals and some very strong audio. Very good. I love that plan. Tell me about this group's idea.
Okay, we were thinking about doing like people standing up for one another.
Okay, stand up.
And what we were planning it, we can see a group of bullies planning to bully a person,
Okay.
and you could hear like a group of people trying to stop it. Like,
So the audio will hear.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then we would see like another person go into the group of bullies and telling them to quit, that it's not nice.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Where is this going to take place? What will be the setting?
In a hallway.
In a hallway. In a school hallway? Okay. I like that. Very good. Very good. Thank you. It's important for the students in this unit to have the final project of the PSA because it provides student ownership of the concepts we have discussed. It also improves student buy-in to the unit. If they know this is coming, they'll buy in and pay close attention to the things we talk about early in the unit. It also is a natural way for students to do what they love to do. They love to teach, they love to create. So the PSA is a natural end to this unit.